G'day guys, this is Jay here from Journey of a Whitefeather and a chat with Jay. Opinions and views. We're going into the federal election. We've got koalas, kangaroos, Steve Irwin impersonations, but also today, very honoured to have Western Australian, hopefully Senator for the People First Party, Mrs.Jody Clune, who's running with a good friend of mine, Madison King. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you going this evening?
We're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well. There's a lot of work going on. We know that with regards to the election coming, it's only about a week and a bit away. We're going to get straight into it. We know that we want to get to know you, and we want to get to know what kind of person you're going to be when you get into the Senate. I'm,
Yep,
I'm, I'm an
certainly.
optimist. I'm an optimist.
We
Tell us a little
need
bit
to
about
be.
exactly. Tell us a little bit about yourself. People that the voters need to know. I'm going to be pretty full on with regards to people want to know who you are.
Yep, certainly. And it is something that I do prefer to stay in the background normally. If you would say, I'm more of backstage rather than the front stage.
Yep.
So it's sort of a bit of a novelty, a new thing for me to wrap my head around. But it is something that I'm very passionate about and making a change. And I have actually come from the backstage and stepped up because I really believe that our country is in trouble. And if we do not stand up and do something now, I don't know how or when is going to be a suitable time to make the changes that are needed. So,
Absolutely.
oh,
Yeah. So now I have to apologise. I do get a bit of a delay on this thing. So if I do butt in, I'll butt straight out. So I do apologise on that. Sorry, keep going.
no, that's okay. You're gonna love technology in 2025.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So where I ended up, so for me coming into the Senate election here and running as a candidate, it really stems from the last 5 years. We all had our lives turned upside down in 2020, and I was no different. For me, I had to, you know, look at how to change my business. I had a dancewear store over on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. My husband was looking at coming over here to WA to go into a venture with his brother, and it was a lot of change already. And then when we had to, do the right thing, roll up the sleeves, we had to shut down, and the 2 week to flatten the curve that ended up into 2 years really meant that I had to walk away from everything that I loved. I had sold my business so that I could come to WA. When I had everything packed up and sold and done, I couldn't go anywhere. So, we were probably about almost a year apart from my husband of 32 years. So that's pretty tough. Any of the wives out there, you sort of don't realize that, I'm a very independent woman and, not got a problem of standing on my own 2 feet, but it was a bit of a shock when you've been married for that long, you don't realize just how much you do need them. So we were apart for 12 months, almost 12 months, and I was a bit over it then. So I did what any person, well, a lot of the people did. We all went down to Canberra in 2022 and asked questions of our illustrious leader at that time, which was Scott Morrison. And in the true nature of his character, he packed up and got out of town. So that was really, really disappointing that when we needed answers and we needed leadership from the Prime Minister of our country, and he wouldn't answer it. He didn't have any conversations with us.
Excuse me.
He just basically wrapped up and walked out. And I think that was pretty well the start of the end for Liberal. Definitely was the start of the end for Scott Morrison. Um, so for me, not having the answers, but it was good therapy. I came home to Queensland and continued to sort of stand up and push back and ask why. Speaking with so many other business owners who were now without business, people without jobs. I spoke to a lot of nurses who had served so well at the front line, and now the nurses were without jobs because they wanted to voice their own concerns. I spoke with doctors. We were shoulder and shoulder with ex-police, military. There were so many questions and there were just not enough answers.
Right.
We had some really great we had some great politicians who did brave the crowds and come to speak to us, and we would ask them questions. I mean, I really had some hard questions, and not all of them could answer it. It wasn't until I was at a rally in 2022 in Brisbane that I met Gerard Rennick for the first time, and I must admit, I grilled him. And he was very generous with his time, and he was very generous with his answers. He certainly did not shy away from anything that I was asking him. Now, we do have to remember that back
Excuse me.
in 2022, 21, you know, the debt was starting to skyrocket. You know, we had all the incentives to keep us out of, issues, job seekers and the job payments. We had grants that were going around. So things were really changing at a rapid rate. And, looking for answers, Gerard actually had not just questions and was pushing for the truth to come out of why we had to go through 2021, 22. But also, too, he was asking questions then about where's the money going? Where's the money coming from? And what is going to be the implications of this? A lot of our kids are got good degrees, they've got good paying jobs, and they're really struggling. They're moving back in with mum and dad. They're not seeing a bright future. And this is wrong. This is just so wrong. So for me, coming from such an independent position, as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, to really just watching everybody around me have to lose so much, and the answers weren't good enough. So I'm here asking for answers. I want Gerard Rennick back in Senate as well. He needs to be there.
Yep.
We need other people such as Alithantic has been great. I mean, he would cross the floor as well when it mattered.
Yep.
And, we're hoping that he stays strong. You've got Russell Broadbent, who's been asking questions, and he's now also, too, as Gerard has been removed from the Liberal Party. So one of the questions that I want to ask is, Liberal has been the backbone, the Conservative vote for my whole life. Why now is it we've been left in the cold? We need to step up and take responsibility for our own government. So, I think that's pretty well why I'm running.
So you can see that the grassroots, it's basically you. I find a lot of people get out of the politics side of things and actually see what's happening to them. And I think that's what people have to actually focus on. And that's what you're focusing on. And that's why you want your voice heard. And that's why you're standing up for the people, because of that. You've actually gone, right, this isn't working. This isn't working. I've talked to the heads of Parliament and they turned your back. This is where Gerard, yourself, Maddie, especially coming on board and seeing what you guys really stand for and looking at, everyone's going to look internally into what's happening and really understand you're working for nothing in some ways. How do you respond to that?
Absolutely, 100%. Australians, we always like to look at the bright side of life. The she'll be right attitude. Oh,
Yep.
It's all good. How many cliches do we just roll off the tongue? We don't even think about it.
Yep.
And I think for a long time, that something's not right, but you just believe and hope that the people you voted for and you're paying for, that they're doing their job, they're doing their fair share. But they're not. And I think when it becomes blatantly obvious that you've had blind faith, we've let them get away with too much. And, now we've got to take that responsibility that we, as the people, I have allowed my government to have too much leniency, and they haven't done their job, and they haven't honoured their oaths. And now it's a case of, well, fall on me if I let this continue. And, it's not just my life that I've seen affected, but it's so many lives around. And I think, the conversations that I have is people are going and stopping and going, okay, well, what's wrong? I can't do the things I used to be able to do. So it is your own life that gets affected first. And then you turn it around and you see, well, I'm not the only one that is dealing with high rent. I'm not the only one that's been told how to run my business. when it's my sweat and tears, you know, it's my
Yep.
work. I've built it up, and yet I've got to answer to somebody else for it. You know,
Absolutely.
when
Yes.
we start to see, well, others are like that, you know, we then start to see the broadness of it, and then we have to ask a choice. We've got a very clear choice. You know, do we turn a blind eye, or do we really put our foot down and say, yeah, enough?
What are you going to say to the public that have actually switched off? That's going to be the big. That's going to be the big one. Now, there's people say, "Oh, I'm going to vote Labor. I'm going to vote Liberal." I don't believe that from what I'm seeing or what I'm saying, or sorry, what I'm seeing and what I'm talking to people about. How are you going to get them to switch on to Mr. Rennick? Now we know he's good. We've seen him. But how are you going to get that light bulb? What are you going to say to get that light bulb up in WA?
Look, in WA, it's been really interesting, particularly after the state elections. A
Yep.
lot of people's light bulbs were dimmed right down. A lot of hope had been lost after Labor actually regained. And the conversations that I have been having here in WA, what's the use? You know, we can't change anything. It's it's out of our control. It's out of our hands. And
Okay.
you know, that was another driving force to say no. History proves that if you've had enough and we stand together, then we can actually make a change. We can actually take that
Yeah.
back. But we need to actually admit what's going on, and we need to be real with each other, be
Fantastic.
brave enough to
Yep.
have those conversations, and to
Absolutely.
then be able to start to sound together. You know, for your voice together with my voice,
Yep.
with somebody else's voice, the volume gets up. And we've seen that even in the last 6 months. We had the mis and disinformation last year. You know, we had record people come out and actually just say, we're not on, we do not want the mis and disinformation. We do not want to be censored. And Australia spoke as one, and the mis and disinformation was overturned. You know,
Yes.
we then also too had the voice. 23, we
Yep.
had the voice. Over 60% of Australia stood up together and said, no, we do not want this. It's not got the motives behind it. You're not being honest with what you're saying. We're calling you out. And Australia stood together and called the current government out. Now, it's been done.
Yep.
We need to keep doing it. And this is the conversation that we need to continue to have is I need you to stand with me, and I want to stand with you, and together we can actually get things turned around. We can make that difference.
Yep.
And, you know, encouraging each other with hope. And I am seeing that as we are having these conversations, I am seeing hope come back into Western Australia. I am getting such messages of appreciation for standing up, and then they're rallying behind us, and that's what people need to understand. And when you look at the conversations in the media, when they're talking about a hung parliament in mainstream media, they're starting to talk about, you know, well, where do you sit with the minor parties? You know, this is now it's not being ignored.
If you were to say this is what the major parties are doing compared to what People First are doing, how do you make that compare? How do you do that? How do you basically say to someone who's sitting on the fence or doesn't want to vote, when you come forward, what are you going to say?
Look, have you had enough yet? You know,
That's
are
fantastic.
you happy? Yeah. Are you happy paying your extra taxes? You know, with, you
Awesome.
know, are you happy having, you know, your money returned to you as an incentive? It is your money, it's your taxes, it's your superannuation that they are using as bargaining chips, you know? And I would say to the everyday Australian, have you had enough yet?
That is absolute. And you know what? And that's the big thing. Regardless of what people vote for, they have to have a look at themselves, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Mm.
But obviously, we're looking at what People First are about. What about yourself coming into the election and looking at exactly what could happen, what's happening out there at the moment? Where do you sit? What do you feel? Because you're very, well, as I said, I've heard you when I've hosted the online TikTok ones, the TikTok talks. that we've done with Chris Neal and Maddie, and a few others have come on, which has been, and the best thing for what these talks have been, we've actually had people from One Nation, okay, people from other independent parties, which is great. We're having conversation and free conversation. That's what we're looking for. What are the other things you're looking at with regards to getting yourself over the line? What are the other key points you're looking at to really hit a nerve with the Australian public?
To get Madison into the Senate, to get myself into the Senate, I really just need people to stop and to actually see what our actions are. Have a look and stop
Excellent.
and see the actions of Gerard Rennick. What are the actions of PeopleFirst Party? But Gerard's been around for years. Madison, she's not just popped up today. She's been fighting for the last few years. She's got a double degree. She's a very smart cookie. And, for Madison and myself, we've been pushed around. We've been knocked down and we keep getting up. And so people need to understand. And I think people do resonate with us because they see that we've been knocked down and we get back up.
Awesome.
They've seen that we are not just little wallflowers, that we are here to see results and that we are here to actually make a change. And that's where coming alongside with Gerard Rennick really has allowed us to be aligned with our own core values. I mean, here is a man who has actually been doing what we've been talking about. And, he for the last few years, the one thing that people need to really, if they want to see what's going on and see the guts of it, then I would encourage everyone to jump onto the Senate estimates, onto question time in Parliament, and watch when Gerard Rennick and a few of the others are putting questions that are affecting our daily lives, because we're the end result here. The way that we actually live, take the kids to school, pay the rent, get the groceries, have our job, keep our job. That all is the end result of what they are allowing or not allowing inside those chambers. Now, when they stand up, the rest of the Liberals and the Labors and the Greens stand up and turn their backs on the people of Gerard Rennick, Malcolm Roberts, the independent senators who have been fighting for us. That is not just an insult to those senators. That is an insult to the Australian people. And that needs to change. And we, as the people of Australia, need to understand that that's not okay because they're insulting us. Let's make this personal because it is.
Absolutely. Look, I think you've said that very, very well. I think you've gone to the core value of what people, and as I said, I think people have to make a choice, okay, based upon, and I always say about a conscious choice. And I think what we're trying to do, and every party should do, is be honest about it. And I think I've seen a lot of honesty coming out in this election, especially doing the lives. It's been great to actually see and have honest conversations. And I think that's a big part of it. Have you noticed that yourself, having, like, with yourself, do you feel like you're having true, honest conversations with the Australian public?
Absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting point that you bring up, because I was actually thinking about that, watching a bit of the debate the other night, particularly when they started having little cracks and digs at each other with Dutton and Albanese. And I just thought, really, you two are schoolboys, and this is a big joke. It is nothing more than a big joke. They are talking from a script. They don't mean what they say. And they are, to the blatant point on when they are asked real questions by real people, they once again turn their backs on them and walk away. So honesty is a mirror right now, and it is reflecting who is speaking truth and who is not. And I think we're really starting to see the caliber of people, the people who are in power at the moment. You have a look at just, for instance, the debate, that just the attitude and the smugness coming through. I don't know about you, but I've had that. And candidates such as myself, such as Madison, such as Chris, we've had enough where we don't have a facade, because the facade was pretty well ripped away the last few years. There is gone. You have raw reality. And I think that's probably a good thing, because when we've got the real person in front, you can, what it is what you see, is what you get. And that's what we need to be able to be building truth. That's what we need to be building in the credentials and the foundations back into getting this country back on track, because it's just ridiculous. People are saying there's nothing I can do. People are saying, they don't take care, they don't listen to us anyway. It's like an open secret here in Australia that politicians are corrupt. They are being paid off. They're not listening to the people, and it's just an open secret. It's just how it is, And I think the candidates of the minor parties that are standing up now are calling that out. And once again, I'm going to go back to Australians need to take responsibility for their own governance. We need to be able to stand up now as one and make sure that our voice is heard, because enough is enough. Like, it's just, got to get back to that, because that's the basis of what today and what our reality is now.
As I said, this is why we need to get this interview out with all the candidates, all our candidates, whoever we can get on the show to talk about this, to actually give people an informed choice. If you want it, look, whatever, it's choice is choice. Make a conscious choice for yourself. And I think what you're saying is exactly that. And that's the most important thing, which is fantastic. I think a lot of people are disengaged. And what you're saying is talking in real terms. I know I did. I looked at myself, real terms, what's happening? Why aren't we, why can't we have extra money to give to small business? Taxes. Do we really need that many taxes? Where are they going? What's happening? I always talk about 100% accountability. Why can't we have that in every sector of government and governance and people? What do you think?
Absolutely. Like, Australia has everything. Absolutely everything. We're one of the wealthiest resources. We've got people who are clever. Like, we have so many inventions. We're very innovative. And yet people are struggling. People are homeless.
Yep.
Why? How did we get there? Why is such a wealthy country such as Australia living in such poverty? We should not be in this position, and we need to be asking why.
I think a lot of people hopefully will comment when we get this video up and they ask you a few questions. I think you come across really, you've got to be real in this situation, don't you? As I said to you, and I've heard a lot of I've watched Senator Babbitt, I think his name is, I've seen him, he's being real. Are they being distracted by paying the bills? Are they being distracted by extra taxes? Are they being distracted by Tik Tok and just watching people fall on their face? If you go where I'm going, it's a bit of a distraction, isn't it? So it doesn't matter what level you're at, but you're just saying to people, really have a look and do an audit on yourself.
100% right. To me, if you have freedom is choice. If you cannot make choices for your own life and for your family, you do not have freedom. And I would ask you all to stop and really have a good audit of what your choices are.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of where we're at.
Absolutely. And have awareness, Jody. I think that's what we're trying to create here. Learning a lot. You're learning. When you get into, looking into really what's happening out there. The American elections were huge. I was over in America when that happened. And that was just massive. And that's a really different feel to what we have here. But I believe they're more awake. And this is the people thing about awakening people. And this is what you're doing. You're talking like a normal everyday person. I know you're going for the Senate. That's fine with Maddie. But you're talking like a normal everyday person. That's what we want to hear. With a bit of truth.
Absolutely. A lot of truth. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think too, it's interesting when we do look at America and as opposed to Australia, the cultural differences. I think what's happening in America and the they're getting back their country. They're getting the manufacturing back in their country, and their president is making some tough choices, and it's not popular. But he has got the heart of his people first and foremost. Whereas with Australia, our culture is, and I don't know whether it's because of the past, like we're very much subservient. We've got a lot of the Aboriginal culture, which comes underneath others, but then we've also too got a lot of convict. When a lot of families started life as convicts or, as outcasts of other countries and come to Australia, they did it tough. And, whether that is something to do with our culture, where we let things go just to get on with it, whether we are continually looking to somebody else, because that's part of where we've all come from, whatever country or whatever nation we've started from, if that's in our heritage, in our DNA, I do wonder sometimes, because we do just take it. We do let other people rule over the top of us. And if someone, God forbid, steps up and does really well, Australia is well known for the tall poppy syndrome. I think that's time as well for that to stop. And we've got to start empowering each other. We've got to find our Australian voice, and we've got to be standing up together. Once again, the minor parties are a great start with that, because we are this election been started out working side by side. The minor parties have been at least in more conversation. Now, has it gone smoothly? Absolutely not. But I think it's a good start. And
Absolutely,
we need
yes.
it needs to start. And there's going to be bump and grinds on the way, but that's how we grow. And that's how we call out things that aren't okay and aren't true. And then we embrace things that are true and are where we're reflections of where we're wanting to go. So I think together, as Australia is the melting pot of the world, and as we are able to really find our own identity in understanding the strength of who we are,
Yep.
that we're not going to come underneath subservience of other nations, because that time has been past. That time has got to stop. And we need to really start to stand up as Australians, side by side, with our own destiny in our own hands.
You've spoken very well. You really have. I think if anyone can say that, you can rewind this video and just the points that you've made, being real, understanding yourself. If you want to get away from politics, understand yourself. What's the best choices for you? Are you living your best life? Are you aware? Are you 100% accountable? A lot of things that we look at that you've spoken about and spoken very well about. What do you think the final message is here, Jody? Other than we know what the final we know what the final call we want. We know what the final call. So the final call could be, Madison King, Jody Clune in the Senate. Okay, that's the final call. But humanitarian wise, what do you say to the Australian people?
Look, my heart is for Australians to stand up as one, to find their voice, because we've always had it, but we've never recognised it. So for my message would be for Australians to find their voice, raise their voice, and keep it raised until we've broken through this. Because if we don't, we may very well lose our Australian voice.
That's a powerful, powerful message, which you'll see in one of the clips. I can guarantee you, absolutely guarantee. Jody, before we go, we need to find out where to find you, how to vote, talk about Madison as well. Let's go through step by step what they can do. I know there's how to vote cards and all those kind of things for you. Let's chat about it before we finish up tonight. Go for it.
Absolutely. So look, to get on board with our campaign here in WA, we've got Madison King and myself, Jody Clune, running for Senate for People First. So when you're at the ballot box, that really long white ballot paper, voting above the line, numbering your boxes 1 to 6 with People First in that column H, Or if you'd like to make sure that you're voting 1 for Madison and 2 for Jody, go under the line voting boxes 1 to 12 with Madison and I from People First 1 and 2.
But Jody, thanks so much for coming on, chat with Jay, and we'll get this out ASAP because people need to know. People have to make conscious choices and obviously get all the information, ladies and gentlemen. Make a choice. Do your own research, but you've got to give everyone a chance. And this is why Jody's come on to have a chat about what's going to happen in Western Australia. Thank you so much, Jody, for having coming on. And
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And this will be out very, very soon. I always finish off. I've got a hero that I met last year. I'm a professional wrestling freak. And I met Bret the Hitman Hart in Calgary. And I always say, be the best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. Jody, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you soon. This has been a chat with Jay, the Robin Hood Effect, opinions and views. Take care. We look forward to seeing you soon. I'd like to take this time to shout out our supporters at Liberty Bullion, the best gold, silver and platinum traders in Melbourne, even Australia. If you want to give them a call, their knowledge, their customer service is second to none. Back to the show.